Until I came across nonviolent communication, I believed that sadness and depression were just useless, just pointless, something to be thrown out with the garbage. So perhaps it's not surprising that I suffered from periodic depression in my teenage years, my early 20s. It was only when I came across Marshall Rosenberg, the founder of nonviolent communication, that I found out that mourning or grief is a human need, just as much as celebration. So what are mourning and celebration, and what's the connection between them? Hello, I'm Shanti Garba, and welcome to NVC Life Hacks. Marshall said that his aim in life, following the poet Khalil Gibran, was to laugh all his laughter and cry all his tears. I thought that this understanding was unique to nonviolent communication until I followed a link on Facebook to a workshop by a South American shaman, and I found out that he was saying exactly the same thing. And then I remembered that I had come across this kind of understanding, the connection between mourning and celebration, in the work of William Blake, the English engraver and poet. He said, "Joy and woe are woven fine, a clothing for the soul divine. Under every grief and pine runs a joy with silken twine." And that's from the Auguries of Innocence. So is it really possible to laugh all our laughter and cry all our tears, as Marshall said? First of all, we need to understand that mourning and celebration are two sides of the same coin. We mourn when life isn't going the way we want, when needs are not being met. And we celebrate when life is going the way we want it to go, when our needs are being met. Whether the needs are met or unmet, what enriches life stays the same. It's things like safety, protection, nourishment, vitality, love, belonging, honesty, growth, learning, creativity, freedom, understanding, and beauty. Something else that mourning and celebration have in common is that they're more easily met in community. This is because they can just feel too big to be held by one human being. You could say that they have a transpersonal element to them. We need a sense of connection and belonging, even a sense of communion, in order to approach mourning and celebration and to make sense of them. I first learned how close mourning and celebration are when I went to Sri Lanka. I'd been invited by a Sri Lankan NGO to teach a group of 30 Tamils how to share NVC with their communities. It was just after a 30-year civil war, or war of independence, between the Tamils and the majority Sinhalese population. And the Tamils had lost to the Sinhalese government in a bloody finale to the war. So after a day or two with this group of Tamils, I realised that they had no space to learn anything, let alone teach it to anybody else. What they really needed was space to mourn. In fact, they told me that public expressions of mourning and commemoration of the dead had been explicitly outlawed by the Sinhalese government. So I gave up trying to teach them anything, and instead I created a space for mourning. Over the next few days, as they mourned their losses, I followed the process and I tried to model it. Initially using cards from the NVC dance floors that I brought with me. As the mourning process unfolded, I laid the corresponding cards, on the floor in the middle of the circle. And this became Steps to Mourning and Healing, which is a process I still use today for supporting grief and mourning. And you can find out more about that in the text below. Then something completely unexpected happened. After 3 or 4 days of mourning, the mood changed and they wanted to celebrate. They wanted to party. Now, it took me a while to catch up. I thought I was still there for mourning. I thought I was still there supporting a space for mourning. However, after a few hours, I realised, okay, things have changed and I need to get with it. So I caught up and then I played with them. Then I partied with them. And what I learned is that Tamils love singing games. They love competitive singing games. And they wanted to get me involved in some way with these competitive singing games. So that was what we did. Several years later, in 2017, I brought together a team of NVC trainers to facilitate a post-earthquake trauma healing event in Nepal for people who've been traumatized by the recent earthquakes, and others who wanted to support those who've been traumatized in their own communities. So I introduced the steps to mourning and healing process to the other trainers as part of the preparation for the event. And I told the other trainers, based on my experiences in Sri Lanka, that if we stayed with this process, this mourning and healing process, for 3 or 4 days max, that the participants would flip into celebration. Needless to say, they didn't believe me. To create a space for healing, we told the participants that all feelings are welcome. Now, feelings are feedback about needs. And if we welcome all feelings, we're more likely to be able to go with the flow of life, to sense how life is moving through us at the moment. 3 days of trauma healing later, to my relief, the participants flipped. The mood of the group flipped completely. And I still remember dancing wildly round in a circle and joyfully singing at the top of our voices. From these experiences, I've come to realise that mourning can be a healing and integrating process. As I say in my recent book, The Burning House, a Buddhist response to climate and ecological emergency, and there's a link to that in the text below, in the chapter on ecological grief, mourning isn't just for lost lives. It can also be for lost dignity, lost freedom, lost empowerment, and even lost species, lost ecosystems, lost natural beauty. Mourning is a process rather than an event, and it tends to come in waves. Depression is incomplete mourning. If we know how to mourn, we're much less likely to get depressed. And if we go deeply into mourning, we come across what is most precious in life. Be it love, that is to love or to be loved, be it communion, safety, freedom, beauty, and so on. If we go deeply into one of these, whether it's mourning or celebration, we'll come out at the other. In this way, they're truly two sides of the same coin. Celebration in one place leads to mourning in another. There's just this constant flow of mourning and celebration. As Marshall Rosenberg said, laughing all our laughter and crying all our tears. And as William Blake said, when this we rightly know, through this life we safely go. That's it for now. If you'd like to know more, you can subscribe to our YouTube and Instagram channels. You can like our Facebook page, you can join our mailing list, and of course, you can join us on one of our events.